Very excited to be joined this morning by our two panelists on the left and the right. We've got Parker Short, who is the president of the Georgia Young Dems, and we also have Evita Duffy, who is the host of the Bongino Report. Got a couple topics we wanted to dive into with you guys. Welcome. Glad to have you this morning.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So we got big news the night after the debate, like that night during the post aftermath of the debate, that Taylor Swift had come out and endorsed Kamala Harris, describing herself as a childless cat lady. Parker, let me start with you. I'm sure you're happy about this news. How significant do you think that this will be for the Kamala Harris campaign?
I'm not particularly a Taylor Swift fan, but I do appreciate somebody who uses their platform for a good purpose. I kind of did expect this because she has been very outspoken before. If you will go out there and endorse Phil Bredesen in Tennessee in 2018, then you will go out there and get behind Kamala Harris, who's one of the most exciting nominees that the party has seen in a while. I will say I think the most impactful part of this is not Taylor Swift convincing voters that wouldn't vote or that we're going to vote for Trump. It is instead reaching out to new folks. Last year, when she promoted the voter registration link on National Voter Registration Day, it was a 40,000 people increase. It was much more than last year. That was the last highest voter registration bump before Kamala got in the race. And then last night, we saw more than 300,000 people click on her link. I think the thing that's going to make the difference this election in states like North Carolina and Georgia, where I have both lived, and is new voters coming in, people on college campuses, people getting engaged that are being touched by people like Taylor Swift that are using their platform for what I think is a good reason.
Evita, to bolster Parker's point here, let's go ahead and put the third element up on the screen. He mentioned the number of visitors that her voter registration link received in the hours after she endorsed. So her link to register to vote brought in 306,000 visitors to vote.gov. Obviously it did something in terms of people being interested in registering to vote. And presumably, since she endorsed Kamala Harris, many of those people will plan to vote for Kamala Harris. What do you think of the significance of this, or do you think that it's very significant?
I tend to actually agree with Parker that I'm not sure it's going to be wildly, significant to this election. I think what was interesting is I didn't feel like her heart was really in it. I mean, there hasn't been a rally with Kamala and Taylor. She hasn't put on a concert for her. It was just an Instagram post. And the Instagram post was also kind of flirting with both sidesism at the beginning. In the end, she sort of said, vote for who you think would make the best president. And so it was not as strong as I think people are making it out to be. And you have that on top of the fact that she said her reason for endorsing Kamala is because she wants to combat misinformation. And a lot of people know that during a NATO meeting 4 years ago, the Pentagon's Psychological Operations Unit floated this idea of turning Taylor Swift into an asset for combating so-called misinformation. So I think there's something really interesting going on there.
So you think Taylor's a deep state plant? Is that what you're suggesting?
I like
well,
it. If you do, I like it.
Has floated the idea. So, I mean, it's possible. And she cited misinformation in her statement, which I think is really interesting.
Okay.
But the other thing I want to say is that I think that young people are a lot more animated with the real issues than just a celebrity endorsement. Trump forced Kamala last night to say that she loves Israel. She supports Israel. She stands with Israel after he accused her of saying she hates Israel. So that to young people is going to be really significant as we look at what's happening in Gaza, and a lot of especially socially conscious left-wing people who I think Kamala would consider her base are really going to be alienated by that kind of rhetoric. I think that's more important to young people than a Taylor Swift endorsement.
Well, Parker, what do you make of that? Because Evita's just, I'm assuming, giving like a political analysis. I believe we'd spoken previously last time we saw you in Chicago, and that's something Krystal and Ryan have been talking a lot about as well. If anything, she's probably as forceful on the issue, at least on the substance, that Joe Biden is. Do you think that's going to be a problem for her? Like, what do you see with younger voters?
Well, younger voters care a lot about different issues. And again, I don't speak for all younger voters, but I will agree with your other guest. She started off by agreeing with me, and I do think she has a point. It's more about the policy. I watched that debate last night, and I saw Kamala Harris finally talk about a lot of policy issues that matter to me. I like the opportunity economy stuff, and I was frustrated by her pandering to parts of the American electorate through the way that she talks about the genocide that is occurring in Gaza. And I think she has shown me some hope at points on that issue by meeting with the uncommitted movement, by trying to reach out to young voters. It is clear to me there is one candidate on the ballot that cares about human rights and does have at least some care for the human lives that are being lost in Gaza. Donald Trump does not care. And yes, he did force her and push her to that position. But I think that kind of shows the difficult position that our American politics is in, where it is so Israel has such power to the point where you can't really go out there in mainstream politics and, be on a presidential debate stage, because AIPAC really is scary. Ask Andy Levin, who is, I went to University of Michigan. He's Jewish. He stood up for what was right. And they elected somebody far more pro-war to his seat. I think that she is trying her best on the issue, but her best is definitely not enough. There's a lot that I would like to see. And I think that debate was her attempt to kind of, yes, find that middle ground and debate with Trump. But I didn't appreciate it. But I will say, as I said, there is one candidate that cares about human rights in the Middle East. And I'm very close with Ruah Roman. And I think she would love to come on y'all's show. She is a state representative from Georgia. She's the only Palestinian elected official in the state of Georgia. And we talk about this issue a lot. And for her, a Trump presidency looks like more of her family dying overseas. And it really is terrible, and Kamala needs to step up. And Ruah should have been a speaker at the DNC. That was a missed opportunity for the DNC to say, hey, let's hear Palestinian voices. I appreciate that Kamala could sit down with the uncommitted movement and hear their voices, but there is a lot more that needs to be done. However, in Georgia, our rights are under attack every single day. People are dying in Georgia hospitals because they don't have access to reproductive rights. And that is front mind for a lot of voters. And I know Ruah and I are both dedicated to electing Kamala, as frustrating as her position on the issue can be.
Vita, that is a key point that that Parker raises, is that the issue of abortion, I would say equally animating probably to younger voters. What do you think then about Trump's answers on the issue of abortion during that debate, which arguably could be just as consequential in swinging voters as well?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I've really been disillusioned with the way that Trump has handled the abortion question over the last month or two. He's really turned the GOP much more to the pro-choice side than I would like as a pro-life person. Parker said that Kamala is somebody who cares about human rights, and in my opinion, killing unborn children in the womb is the epitome of spitting on human rights. And I think that is something that is egregious. And I liked that Trump during the debate, for the first time, really started to put some pressure on Kamala and how radical the Democrats are with their pro-abortion stance. I think a lot of Americans think abortion is safe, legal, rare. It's done in the early stages. And the reality is that Democrats have, in Democrat-controlled states, permitted abortion at all stages. That's just a fact. You had the fact checkers come in and say, oh, this isn't true. There's no abortions after a baby is born. That actually has happened. There are 5 instances of this happening on the record. You can go to the Daily Signal. They've reported it out. But the truth is that Democrat states, when they have that option, will allow abortion at all stages. And this is a radical stance that I think most Americans don't agree with. And the other thing that I'll mention about human rights is I'm not really sure, and I don't really think a lot of young people are sure, that Kamala is going to bring peace to the world if she's in office, because we have right now the carnage that Trump also mentioned during the debate in Ukraine. And Kamala is not committed to ending this war. She's not committed to a peace deal. There is suffering. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people are dying because America keeps us in this funding this battle that even Zelensky has now recently come out and said, we need to take a step back. We need to start negotiating a peace deal of some kind. I think that's really short-sighted. I think it shows a real disrespect for human life, and perhaps a symbol that Kamala is in bed with the military-industrial complex, which makes money off of human lives being lost.
Parker, you want to respond there?
Well, I really would like to talk about Ukraine because I do think it is interesting. But first, I'm going to talk about abortion because this is not something that we should beat around the bush on. We talk about human rights, and I hear where your panelist is coming from. This is personal for a lot of people. But again, it is a personal choice. And in Georgia, abortion is banned at 6 weeks, as it is in South Carolina, as it is in many places all over the country. And every single day, women are dying in Georgia because they don't have access to proper reproductive care. And reproductive care and women's rights are human rights. And, you know, I have a girlfriend, we're very serious. We talk about having a kid, and she's scared to be pregnant in Georgia because you can't get proper medical care. I think human rights is people being able to have self-determination and the choice about their own bodies. And while I respect you and your opinions, you can make that decision about your body. We are at a point in our lives and in our country where Donald Trump and the Republican appointed majority on the Supreme Court has taken away rights from people all across the country. And the truth is that a majority of Americans actually want to restore those rights. I know you said that a majority don't feel that way. It's not true. Because you look at Kansas, they voted to protect abortion rights. You look at Michigan, they voted to protect abortion rights. On November 5th in Florida, they have the opportunity to protect abortion rights because they have a 6-week ban, which most women don't know they're pregnant, ends up preventing people from getting reproductive care, criminalizes healthcare. Doctors are unable to provide the care that women need, and they often put the health of the mother at risk. That's going to be on the ballot. Donald Trump's not going to vote for it.
Yeah.
This is actually
I think that is as clear as it can be. Also, marijuana is on the ballot in Florida.
That's right.
Statewide. And I was very impressed
that one.
that Kamala Harris came out in favor of marijuana legalization recently.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.